Andrea.
Hi everyone, welcome, thanks for coming. It seems like lately I'm having quite a few conversations with people who are trying to figure out how to focus their good works, what they want to specifically concentrate on with all the energy that they've got, or the tools, the resources, their time, their money. And it's a tough question, right? Because there's so many options. There's a million causes, there's a million organizations, campaigns, everybody wants you to get involved with them. And so it is tough to narrow that down. So that's what I wanted to just talk about a little bit today, is some sort of tips on how you can approach the idea of like picking your thing. And there is a chapter in the book on it called Identifying the Change That You Want to See in the World, so obviously you can also read that, but I'm going to try and give you some stuff that's not necessarily in the book to enhance. There's a quote that sort of speaks to me when I think about this stuff, which is by a gentleman called Howard Thurman, an American philosopher, and it is, "Do not ask what the world needs. Ask instead what makes you come alive, and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive." And for me, that speaks to the fact that giving and making a difference and doing good and all these things is not about the charities, the appeals, the requests that are coming at you, because all that stuff is really just a tool. Making a difference, doing good, it starts with you, with each one of us. There's a little spark inside of each one of us that gives us that drive and that passion, that very human desire to leave the world a better place than we found it. So because that's where it starts, I think when we're asking ourselves what good should we do and how should we go about it, that's also where we should start, with what's meaningful to us, what we personally are passionate about, what means the most to us. And if we do that, if we turn it around and make it less about the requests coming in and more about what we personally want to make happen, then now we're being more proactive. And that's going to do a couple of things for us. It's going to give us a little more fuel in our tank, for one thing, because making real significant change in tough areas like ending poverty or eradicating disease isn't a one-step process. It's complicated and it can be difficult and sometimes not maybe as exciting as you would want it to be. But if you've picked the thing that is most meaningful for you, you're going to have the drive to get through those maybe slightly less exciting bits and get on through to that really rewarding change that you're in it for in the first place. So that's one of the reasons to pick the thing that's most meaningful for you. You'll also probably understand it better. If it's something that's personal, something that relates to interests that you've had for a really long time, you probably, in the book I talk about doing your homework and researching your issue and etc. But if you pick something that's already interesting to you, you probably already have a lot of that work done. You probably already know quite a bit about the issue that you're going to get into. So now you might be thinking, oh, okay, the thing that's most meaningful for me. Why didn't I think of that? Sure, I know what that is. You know, of course, easy, right? No, it's not that easy. There's still, even if you're trying to think about things that are meaningful for you, there's still a lot of stuff, you know, that appeals to each of us, that's meaningful to each of us. So let's take it a step further with another little tip that I've been finding very helpful with folks as we've been talking about this. And this is based on something that I've sort of adapted from the work of Tad Hargrave, who's here today with us and who wrote the foreword to the book. And it's a question that you can ask yourself to start figuring out what that most meaningful thing for you is going to be. And the question is, what is your deepest wound? The concept that what is your deepest wound is getting at is that each one of us has struggled in our lives. Each one of us has overcome barriers. Each one of us has been touched by issues. And in the experience of moving through that, we've learned things. The people that we may be best suited to help are people who are now where we once were. People who are suffering through or struggling with something that we once suffered through or struggled with. So if we're wondering what should we do, who should we help, what should we focus on, this can be a really, really useful exercise to go through to try and figure out maybe what is the thing that really is going to be most personal to you. Like, what is the thing in your life that you have worked the most to overcome and have learned the most from? And of course, this applies to me in a big way. The whole savvy do-gooder thing has come out of things that have happened to me and that I've struggled with over the course of my life. But that's in the book. So I want to give you a couple of other examples of how this applies to people in real life. Some of you might know my friend Tamara Stesic. She was once in elementary school. She was a very lonely little girl. She was bullied. She was isolated. She felt disconnected. She told me a story the other day of how the kids used to take her work and smash it on the floor just cause she was, you know, that was the form that bullying took for her sometimes. And it wasn't until high school that she realized that a way out of that for her was to cast herself in the role of the organizer. She started being the person that put together the social events. She started being the person that introduced other people to each other. And through that, she turned from a bullied little caterpillar into the social butterfly that some of us know as Tamara today. She now is one of the most active people in the Edmonton social scene. She's at events, she's extremely active on social media, and if you watch her in those environments, she really has come alive. She buzzes around, she just glows, she's having a great time, and if there's anybody in the corner that doesn't look like they really have anyone to talk to or that looks uncomfortable, Tamara's the one that will go over and get them and bring them and introduce them. And that's because she knows what it's like to be that person, and that's also because she understands that that person might be able to do amazing things if they can be helped over the barrier of their shyness or their isolation or whatever. And she uses these skills in support of a variety of nonprofits around town, for example. Today she couldn't be here because she's at a meeting for yet another event that she's assisting with. And it's just a beautiful example of where someone suffered through something, but then turned it into a way to be a force for good later on in their lives. And there's actually a point that brings up for me, which is that when you deal with something that is related to something that you've lived through yourself, one of the advantages that you have is that you understand the people that are going through it. If you deal with something that's really foreign to you, there's a risk in a lot of do-gooding of this self-othering of the giver-receiver, like, I'm the giver and I know what to do, and they're the helpless, victimized, agency-less receiver. And that's a slippery slope that people sometimes will fall down when they're trying to do good. But if you're helping people that you identify with that are where you once were, you're a lot less likely to do that. You will treat them as people with agency, and you will hold them accountable for the pieces that they should be accountable for, and you'll understand the situation that they're in. So another person that I know that this applies to is a woman named Shirley Borelli. Shirley does something that you wouldn't normally think of as being traditionally like for good, making a difference stuff. Shirley's an image consultant. And the reason that she does this is because she believes that people are more powerful when their outsides match their insides. She believes that if you are congruent, if the message you're trying to send or the dream that you're trying to live matches up with the way that you look, you're going to have more confidence, and you're going to get further, and you're going to connect with the right kind of people, and you're going to be able to do more in your life and towards your dream. And the reason that Shirley got into this is because once upon a time, she was a teenage girl, fresh off the farm, just arrived at U of A, and wanted to be a teacher, and wanted to be a young urban professional in the city, and felt very much like a fish out of water, partly because she looked like a farm girl. And Shirley used learning about how to recreate her image as part of learning about how to recreate herself into the young, urban, educated professional that she wanted to be, who was connected with other people that shared her interests, and it really made a big difference for her. So now she uses those skills to help other people get over that same barrier. She's helped she uses it in her work, but she also extends it to her charitable work. She's involved with an organization that helps underemployed or unemployed women get the clothes they need to go out on job interviews and get the kinds of jobs they want. So she's used this difficulty in her past to inform the kind of change that she's making now. And it's really unconventional, but I would argue that it's probably making a heck of a lot of difference. And I know that I usually don't feel like I look like the savvy do-gooder. I usually feel like I look like the executive assistant I was like 6 years ago, because I don't know how to dress like a savvy do-gooder. But Shirley actually offered to help me with my look today, and I don't know about you, but I finally feel like I look like what I'm trying to say. And it helps, it does. It helps with confidence and comfort, and it helps with getting the right kinds of people to like approach you and resonate with you. So it's really cool. Like, it's a really good example, and it worked for me, and works for Shirley, and it's an example of somebody who's turned their difficult experiences into a force for good.
And she did it out in her own closet.
Yeah, and she did it out of my, I said, I don't need money, Shirley, and she said, okay, let's go in your closet and see what we can do. So what about you? What have you struggled with in your life? What have you learned the most from? What are you glad was there to help you over that? Or what do you wish had been there to help you over that? Who is there now? Can you be what you wanted for you for them? That might be the best place to start. Thank you so much for coming. It means so much to me that you're all here. That is, I don't know how to conclude. I'm sorry.